Perfect. We will start our lecture right away on one of the micro web development frameworks that is being built in Python. And one of the I need to close this application. I have an application that I use for my emails. What it does, it keeps track of every person that I send an email, and once you open the email, I get a notification that you have read my mail. So it's kind of funny. So it keeps popping up, so I had to exit it. Okay, so today we're going to look at the micro web development framework that is being used by a number of developers who basically want to deploy simple applications or even websites. And the reason why it's a micro web development framework, because it uses only, it doesn't require a lot of libraries. Guys, you might give me a second. I move actually out and I go and discipline these boys. They're going to make noise, I think, the whole day. Just give me like 1 minute. Okay, perfect. I'm back. I've interrupted nature. So today might have to do something with nature, and probably the application we will build should be on wildlife conservation. All right. So I was telling you that this framework that we call Flask is a micro web framework that is written in Python. And it's classified as micro framework because it does not require particular tools or libraries for you to use. The only thing which it depends on is the Ginger 2 library, which basically it's the one which is used for mapping the URLs. And it has no database abstraction. So you'll ask me, why is it that we are not using database? So it doesn't have a database abstraction. And of course, it's easier to use. And with the pre-existing libraries, they will still provide some of the common functions that you use. So Flask configuration is what we will look at it. And the conventions is kind of easier. It's very simple to get started with building or installing or getting a quick start of setting up the Flask framework. But today, we'll try to make sure that we make it easier for us to set up Flask on our computer without a lot of hassle, as long as we can set up the virtual environment and then we install the Ginger 2 template. We install Flask, it will import the Ginger 2. That is good enough for our template. All right, so let's get started. Remember, after Flask, we will be able to go to the next thing that is going to be on Friday, web scrapping. I hope my colleague is handling REST APIs with Flask or Django. So, or RESTful APIs. Now, and then two, I also want to remind you that your coursework, we discussed it yesterday. So you're going to get your coursework today on 10th. The deadline is going to be 20th to finish up. So you have 10 days. Those of you who are going to be late, you have another additional 6 days to complete it. So you're getting your coursework today, actually the project assignments today after this. So let's get started. Are you excited to get started with Flask?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple. not complicated. Now, for those ones who are using Linux, I told you I actually customize my Linux. It's very beautiful and everything works perfect the way I want. Now, first thing first, you create a folder on the desktop. You can make directory, and then once you create a folder on the desktop, then you should have a folder here. And then in the folder, in the terminal, make sure that this terminal is directly, it's opening the folder directory. Then you will go ahead and you will go ahead and create a virtual environment. So you see, inside this folder, we don't have anything installed. All we need to do is first to create a virtual environment so that it does not affect the default, for those of using Linux, doesn't affect the default Python, which comes with Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So, or whatever version of Ubuntu that you're using. Then you type in our normal command, virtual environment, and then you put venv, then press enter. Now, once you do that, you'll have a virtual environment here created inside that folder. That is the only thing you need. Now, for those of you who are going to have challenges creating virtual environment, you let me know earlier, because if you cannot create a virtual environment, then you're going to have a problem going forward. So after creating a virtual environment, the next thing that you need to do, you need to activate the virtual environment and do source venv /, then bin that directory, and then activate. Now, you could see now, here it shows that I've already activated my virtual environment. I'm inside the activated virtual environment. So I'm just going to clear the screen. And now you can see that I'm inside the activated virtual environment. Before I move further, I don't want to leave my students
we
behind.
didn't see the code that you wrote
For what?
for creating that virtual environment. We didn't see the code.
This is the code.
Yeah, that one. After that one, there was another one you wrote.
For activating, that is the code.
Yes.
So if you've activated your virtual environment, please share your screen. I want to see that part, because the next part is easier. The next part is to install Flask. And once you install Flask, I'll explain a little bit as we go along. Have you all activated your virtual environment? Guys, this is practical, hands-on. What I'm talking about, you should be able to do it. Today, you are going to take us back to HTML and CSS. The only advantage with me is that I have taught most of these programming languages. So it's very easier. And by the way, it's what I do. I only actually lecture programming throughout multiple institutions. So it's kind of like the knowledge is not only inclined to one programming language. I lecture Python, JavaScript, of course, UIs, HTML and CSS, Python, PHP. I think I have to be honest, I've actually left PHP. Back in the days, I used to use PHP, a lot of them. There used to be Ember.js. I don't know whether still guys do Ember.js. Funny. Okay, share your screen. I see if you have activated your virtual environment. Okay. Asimwe, have you already installed Flask?
I tried to install, but it was bringing me back to this
Then
command, to this form.
Asimwe,
Yes,
Asimwe,
please. Yes, please, sir.
I dislike students who create folders. You created a folder Python morning session, and you're creating a white space between Python and morning. That white space will affect you. It's always not
Okay, let
good.
me remove it.
Uh,
Let me
and
remove
then
it.
two, just go
Mm,
and install the pip virtual environment so that it can help you create a virtual environment. I
okay.
don't know. You're using Windows.
Yes.
Uh, I give up. But anyway, just install. Let's have another person. Patricia. See. Let's have another person who has activated. Okay, perfect. Edgar. Edgar is a Linux user. Okay, perfect. The screen looks smaller. Icons, but it's okay. Next. Guys, let's make sure that you have the virtual environment, because if you don't, Aaron, perfect. Shadia, perfect. Edwin, not yet. I can't see your screen. He has refused. You're using Leica. Let's have another person. For those who are using Windows, please try to help your colleagues. I'm not a Windows user. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Edwin, we can see.
Okay. So I activated.
Any other person? Okay. Victoire, you want to share?
I've already shared.
Oh, perfect.
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I like you, by the way. Okay. Now that we have now that we have created the virtual environment, the next step, please, the steps are not many, and Flask doesn't require databases. So what we are going to do, we are just going to do pip install and say Flask. The F is in capital. I don't know, those are who are using Windows. Then, once you have that, press enter. So this should be able to install, you should look here, should install Ginger 2, 3.1.4. Because we will need this Ginger 2 to help map the URLs. That is the only thing that we need to be installed, because that's what Flask uses. Okay, make that installation, share your screen, then we get started. That is it with Flask. That is it with Flask application, nothing else. Let's check and see if you have Ginger installed. Okay, perfect. Let's say, perfect. Let's check, because if you don't have, you're going to get challenges. Speed up. Serenjoji, Yusuf is the one sharing. Perfect. Although your version is 3.1.2, it's okay, it will work, don't worry. Yeah. Windows users, they're getting 3.1.2. Whereas the Linux guys, we are in 3.1.4. Okay, perfect. Please type 1 if everything is okay in the chat. If you have a problem, please learn how to solve your own problems. We are almost in the final stages, so we are moving a little bit faster. Okay. Are we all there? Okay. Now, can I proceed? Hello?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. For those ones who are not following me, you go back to YouTube and watch the recordings. Okay, so this is what you are going to do. We did, because I told you Flask only uses what we call the Ginger tool. That is it, that's what it uses. So let me show you, it doesn't even need a database. So for guys who are going to work with Flask, I think you're going to build more or less of web applications. And of course, by the way, I'm really very harsh on people who are going to use templates. As Macquarie University students, I repeat, stop the nonsense of cloning people's work. That is plagiarism. You do it after in your final projects. If you're coming to present to me and Livingston, the good thing I had a briefing with Livingston yesterday. I told him my expectation, what I don't like from you, and he has understood. You have to code so that you learn how to code. I know in the previous research, you guys could have used a lot of templates. Here, no. You're going to code, build logics from scratch. The good thing you have internet, you can't fail to come up with logics. So if I see a very beautiful interface and I know you have cloned it from somewhere, I will give you 0. Yes, I'm in charge now. I don't want lazy students. So let's get started. We are going to create our directories for our application. Please make sure for this particular website that I'm building, which I'm going to make it for wildlife conservation. Since we had the birds here making noise for me, I thought it would be good if we look at some of the endangered species that comes to say good morning to me by making noise. So the idea is the same. Don't worry. The good thing, just make sure you know your HTML, you know your CSS, because you will only write, I think, only this particular line of code for the Python script. So just click on the new file, and for today, let's call it app. You could call it anything. Let's call it app.py and press enter. So make sure that the app.py is inside the directory for Flask application. Have you done that? Then the next thing that you need to do, you need to create 2 folders. One folder that you're going to create, this is file, this is folder. Now, when you click on folder, you're going to create a folder called templates. Templates. Now, this is what I was talking about. When you press enter in the template, you let me first create two folders. Create another folder called, you could call it CSS. Okay? But I like calling it statics. But you can call it CSS. So I've created a folder called static. Oh, sorry. I made a mistake. That folder, I need to delete this folder. Yes, I need to delete the folder. The folder should be, make sure the folder is not inside the template. Create a folder called static and make sure that the folder is not inside this template. Now, inside the folder static, you can create, you see this, look at these arrows. When the arrow is downward, that means I can create something inside. If it is like this, means I'm creating it in the outside directory. So I'm going to make sure that I turn this one down. Then I create a file inside that static, and that file is going to be styles.css. Now, when I create a style.css, all of you guys, the UI guys, are very happy. The user interface guys, they now know this is where we'll style our website from. Now, then I go to the template. For the template, I do the same. I click the arrow so that it's point downward. Then I create, I'll have index.html. I'm also going to add, I will have 2 pages. So let me have the next page. Since we had birds making noise, let us have a page where we will add species which are endangered. So let's click on add, and then we say add underscore species dot html. Perfect. This now makes sense for us. Now we have the HTML and we have the CSS. And you guys have studied HTML and CSS. Now the only part which I'm going to spend a little bit of few minutes here talking about is not even going to be a difficult thing. I'm just going to spend time actually talking about only one thing, and that is and that's going to be the .py. I'm only going to try to explain the .py application. So now, let us start with the application. Let me try to explain, because if I explain this part well, then you can do the rest yourself. Is that okay? Now, since we have Flask and we need the ginger, so the ginger, like the normal ginger we have here in Uganda, the ginger 2 template will basically help us to render request. Okay? It will help basically for us to render request, map URLs, and then redirect the URLs. So for us to do that in Flask, we need to write a script, a simple script, and say, you just need to write this line of code, which will import the Flask class from the Flask module, which is used to create Flask application instances. So you create from what? From Flask, import, the F is in caps, from import Flask. Then if you import Flask, then you also need to import, okay, you could take care of render template that will import the function which is used to render HTML templates. So you will have render underscore template. Now, then you put comma. Now, this render underscore template, its main task is basically to import the function which is used to render HTML templates. Is that okay? Then you do request. Now, the request imports the request object, which contains data about the incoming request, like in terms of forms. So that's what we will do. We have the request. Then we will also have redirect. Now, the redirect imports the redirect function, which is used to redirect the user to a different URL. So if you want to redirect the user to a different URL, you use redirect. Then the last one, you would use the URL for. Now the URL for is basically imports function which generates URLs for the specified endpoints. I'm going to repeat one more time. So we have the render template, which basically imports render template function, which is used to render HTML templates. Then you have the request, which basically imports the request object, which contains data about the incoming request that we will look at it. Then we have the redirect. Redirect imports redirect function, which is used to redirect the user to a different URL. And then we have the URL for, which is basically imports the URL function that generates URLs for the specified endpoints. Are we together now? Do you have any question with that? Now we are going to go to the next thing, is to create an instance of a Flask class. So to create an instance of a Flask class, we will initialize it by first, let's say, I'm just going to use tab 9 because that one is okay. So this line of code, this one up, this is basically creating an instance of a Flask class where we have the variable is passed. We have this variable up that is passed to help the Flask determine the root path of the application. So this is basically to create the instance of the class where we have the variable up to help the Flask determine the root path of the application. So I'm only going to explain this part. Once I'm done, it will be good enough. Now, so this is what you will do. Then we will now try to, since we are going to deal with a little bit of species. Let us try to create some sample species that should be able to. Let's create the species list, the one that we can have. Then we can add some to it. Let's create observation species list. So here we'll use a dictionary. Well, conservation. Okay, let's just say species list. Do something simple. Species list. Since it is a list, uh, we'll create the list. Now inside the list, we'll make sure that they're like okay. We can make sure that they are, we create them as dictionaries, like elephant, habitat, Africa, Antarctica. So let's use this species. This is okay. So I'm giving you chance to reach up to this point. So now there's nothing much I've done. What I did is basically I created species list that defines a list of dictionaries representing species with names, then name, the habitat, and then where they are. Now this is going to be deployed. This is going to be deployed or displayed on our web page. We just want this list to be displayed on our web page. Are you done? Hello? Antarctica. This is one of the most beautiful places. It's one of the most beautiful country in the world, Antarctica. I pray God gives me money and I visit this planet. It's full of snow. It's just purely white. You should Google it on internet, you will see it. And it's very cold. Are we together? Hello? Are we together up that point? Up this point? Hello?
Not yet. We are still creating the list.
Oh, your tab 9 is not suggesting. Okay, you create the list. I'm just taking, I'm taking the advantage of using tab 9. But remember what I said about using tab 9. Be careful. You might use it and things start running into errors. For me, I don't fear errors as a programmer. Once I run into an error, I'll spend time. I know I'll spend some time, but I will debug it eventually. Class rep, Madam Otim, sorry, Mr. Otim and Madam Elsa. Can you give me a list of the group, a link to the group list, so that I assign your group a project? And you are not going to select the project. I'll put you, do this one in this application. So for Derek, you are disadvantaged because I will just technically force you to do what? Do what I want so that it can build your capacity. Nansha. Nansha, what's the meaning of your name? Elsa. Guys, are you done? Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's proceed. So now we are going to create the index route. So the index route is basically so that it is able to render the HTML template. Is that okay? So we need to create the route. So for us to create the route, we will use the symbol at, then we put up route, then now what we are going to do, we'll pass in just use the /. I don't know those of using Windows. Now, this line of code, this one at .route, it's basically a decorator that maps the URL. The /, so that it maps the URL to the index functions. When a user visits the URL, this function will be executed. That's why we have this function. Basically, it's a decorator that maps the URL to the index function. When a user visits this function, when the user visits the URL, this function will be executed. So that's why we are using this at.route, so that it helps to map the URL. Are we there? Now we are going to define, we are now going to define the index function. So we could define it as home to render the HTML, okay? Which when I look at this script, I don't see any problem with it. But now, the only thing that I'm going to try to modify is that I'll call my function index instead of calling it home. Because I have the index. I didn't call my template home.html. I call my template index.html. So I'm defining the function index. So this function index will return the render template, which I explained it earlier, basically to render the HTML. And then this renders the index template and it will pass the species list. This list here, it will pass all the species list. And it will be displayed. And it will display this list on our index page. Have you understood? So this basically will render the HTML and then pass this species list, which will later be displayed. It will display this species list on our HTML. Are we there? Can we proceed a bit? Hello? Can we proceed a bit?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Now, because we are done with this page. Remember, we have two pages. We have a page called index.html. Then we have another page called what? Add species .html. We can also repeat this. We can also repeat this page. 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 this routing so that it can also help us to what? To render so that we are able to add species. Apart from this one, we can add our own species which are endangered. So how can we do that? We just need to still, using the same approach, create the app route where you just say add app route. Now, it's going to be tricky here because when you press enter with tab 9, my interest is different. Here, what I need it to just add species. The method that I need it to get and post. So it should get user data and post it. So it should have some bit of get data and so this one, of course, is the same. We're still rendering the add, but let's just say add instead of add species. Let's say add, then the method is basically to what? We will use a decorator that maps the URL add to add the species, function. Yeah. Then we can now define
Aturama Edgar, can you proceed from there? You are the host.
That's it for today.
Not really. We still want to install Flask.
Hello? Okay, let me try to unmute you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, sorry, I had one of the terrible thing. I was quarreling with this service provider, the ISP, that is Airtel. I've switched to MTN. I had to look for my MTN number. So, terrible. Very, very, very bad indeed. But let's see, and let's see if we can finish up. And I hope it is recording. The recordings are on. Okay. All right, so let's proceed. It was very, very bad, but please go back to your WhatsApp group and inform others to come back to join online. We are back and we are live. Let's have this done. Very embarrassing, but we can't do anything. We can finish. I know we can finish. What is remaining is not difficult. So what I was trying to say is that now we also need to implement the same. We need to create the app route with the method of the app route method, so that we can be able to add some. The method should be able to get and post, get information and post it to the other page, to the index page. So a decorator will map that URL that will add the species function, and it will be supported with the get and post method. Now let's see. We added a function that takes the add species method. Now what we are going to do, basically after defining the function, we are going to write a logical statement that check if if the request method is post, i.e. like if it is a form submission. So that's what we have to do. Please, that person should mute. Okay, Yusuf. Okay. Gilbert also mute. All right. All right, so what we are trying to do here is to write a logical if condition. So we're going to write the if, and we say if the request dot method equals to post. Now, basically, this will check the method if it is a post. Now, what will the post do? We will try to, what are we posting? Like we can have name, habitat, and species list. Yeah. So we'll have name, request for form, name, which basically retrieves the name from the form data that we have created here. And then the habitat will retrieve the habitat from this form data, which is going to be the habitat. And then the species list will basically append the name, habitat, and of course this will help to add the new species to the species list. Then the return redirect will basically redirect the user to the index page to see the updated list. Now we can now do the last line of code here, where we can say return render template, and then this template is basically the template is actually add underscore species. Now, this template, render template, if the request method is get, it renders the add species HTML template to display this information on the form. So that's why we have decided to use this method. So are you good up to this point? Are you okay up to this point?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now what we are going to do, we need to create an interface of our form, because if we display this, we are not going to get any output on our, we're not going to get any output. If we say Python app.py, so literally we are not going to get anything running. Okay. So now what we can do, we can go ahead and modify. I hope all this is okay with our page. Maybe what we can do to help now run the application is that we can write another script basically to help run the application. So we can do that by saying if then app run debug true. So what that will do is basically it will check if our script is being run directly as opposed to being imported by the module. So this app run starts the Flash development server with debugging, which is going to be enabled. So let's try and now run, if you can have this application run. Okay. So now when we copy this, right click copy, and we go to our browser and paste. Okay. So we don't see anything running here, right? We don't see anything running
Yes,
here,
sir.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
so if you want to display any information here, we need to go back to the template, the index page, so that at least we add the HTML file. Is that okay? So let's go back there to the HTML. There's a lazy way of doing it. You just shift and then press enter. But I'm going to modify it a bit since I'm going to I'm not going to explain a lot here with HTML because at least you guys have done some HTML programming. Let's just have the title and call it while conservation. Please mute while conservation. I heard guys who don't want to mute. So we have while conservation. I press Control S. Now that's the title. So we have to link it to our styles, so that when we style the CSS, it can be linked to our CSS. So let's link it to our CSS. But this is not how we link it to CSS in Flask. We need to use the Ginger template so that it can help to reference our style. If you do this, I don't think this will work. So we are going to modify this linking by saying we are adding the Ginger template where you just use the double and then you transfer the style script to be inside. Then you say, remember we use the other URL underscore for underscore for static. Because we call it here static in that directory. And then in that static folder, the file name which is in that static folder is what? File is called styles.css. Yeah. So that's how you do the mapping of the URL using the Ginger 2 modules. Now, here we can try to display something like let's something basic. Let's use H1. And we call it while conservation of endangered species. Now, in order for us to get a list of all these other species which we added, in order to get a list of all these species, we can try to use the Ginger so that we specify how we can get the species. And we can do that by saying, for now, when you press Control, when you save and then go to your browser and reload, you're only able to see what? You're only now able to see the wild conservation. You're only able to see the 81 wild conservations of endangered species. Okay? Now that's how that's how the flask work. But let me first improve this code a little bit further so that it's like having an HTML file HTML and CSS file within a server, and you load and see the request. But if you want to display this species that were the sample species that we have created for wildlife conservation, then how you implement it using the Ginger3. Guys, are you following me?
Yes.
Okay. How you implement this using the Ginger3, is still within the body tag. What you're going to do, you could do let's create an ordered list. And then inside the ordered list, remember when you're using Ginger3, you specify it using the curly braces for species in species so that it maps the other species. Okay. If it doesn't do it in the right way, I would and for it's kind of even similar to the way we do it in Django. Okay. So now let's come back here and reload.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I think our list is species list, but in the code the tab 9 it's just species. Line 12.
Line 12.
It's supposed to be for species in species list.
List. No, let me see. No, this is okay for species in species.
Is that how you name our list in app.py?
No, don't worry. There's something I'm going to modify this line of code. Okay. I'm going to modify this line of code. Don't worry about that. That should be able to work. What we're trying to get as a challenge is basically wanted to return from the species. So let's forget about that line of code and we write our own using Ginger. So we'll write it and say species. I know what you're saying. So species dot name species habitat. Is that how we are getting the habitat? Habitat.
Yes.
So that's how we have written it in the starter. Then let's have something like an anchor for add species, add new. This should be okay. All right. So I see the add new species is there. Don't worry, we'll have the species. We'll try to make sure that we have those species load. Now, let's go and do something in the add species template. So do you need to see the code? Do you need to see my code before I move to the next line of code in the add species the HTML?
Yes, sir. We need to see the app.py.
Okay. I thought you already have the app.py.
Yeah, we do, but we would just want to see the other one, the code for add species.
Add species are not yet written any code there. I'm going to write the code that will help us add the species. And then we shall do the CSS briefly. Can I proceed?
So I'm requesting that you go back to the index.html a little bit. It's fine.
All right. Now, can I go to the add species? See, right now it's taking us to the add species, but there's nothing there. We'll work on that. We'll add the species and then later it will be displayed here.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. Hello? What were you asking? Hello? You're not asking. You're just saying, excuse me, sir, and you're quiet. So guys, allow me proceed to the add species, because
Yeah.
when you come here to this, because this is the page, when you click add new species, this page here is where you will be able to enter the species and then submit. And now once you submit, it will return you to this page and it will display the species that you have added. That's the only thing I want to do with the HTML. Have you understood what I want to do? I want to create a form where I add the species here and I click submit. And once the species are submitted, it will return me to this page of the index and display the name of the species which is added. That's the only thing I want to do. But of course, using the Flash and Ginger 3 modules for doing it. Can I proceed and work on this particular page that does the adding of the species? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay. So now what we're going to do, still in the same way, just shift, exclamation, press enter. Then now, this time round, our title here is going to be what? We are adding. This is the add species. So it's going to add new species. And then we are going to link it to our CSS later, basically for styling. Okay. That's cool. And then we'll go into the body tag and have what we call don't know whether this, I will delete it when it doesn't give me what I want. Then just press enter and see. It's kind of fond of suggesting things for me. Oh, add species. So this is where I want it to be. So let me add a species like Jeff Habitat Africa. Then when I add the species here, it's not displaying. We can write a code that will take care of that. Hello? You with your ugly microphone, why can't you mute? No, who is that? The problem I can't to mute. Guys, do you need to look at my script? Okay. So now, when I add the species and I get back to the list, the species should actually be displayed here. Now, if I don't get that, I'll try to see I can look at the return into my app. But I think the problem is with our get. So let's try to fix that. So
thankful for everything he has done for us until today and everything he will do for the people of the AES. Please allow me also to pay tribute to the Nigerian people. These people who have suffered so much since the advent of the CNSP.
who is that one?
And who continue
Who's that one? We are in a lecture and you are.
Thank you to the Nigerians who gave us a warm welcome yesterday when we set foot on the soil of our homeland here. You are more than friends. You are more than neighbors. You are our brothers. You are our sisters.
Please.
Fraternity goes beyond friendship or neighborhood.
Please, you tell that person to write that.
In our veins runs the blood of these valiant warriors, who fought and who reserved these lands.
Who is that?
Hello, Stacy.
No, Edgar Mark.
Edgar, what is wrong with you? We are in for lectures, we are there. Some of you are very unserious. Okay, so guys, now what we do, were you all able to create something that that takes you to another page? Like when you come here, you click add species, you are able to add a species onto the add page. We'll improve this code, don't worry. Are we there? Did you try to do something up to this level?
Yes.
Okay. Now what you're going to do, I'm going to modify that code, don't worry about it. Let us first try to do some bit of styling using CSS. So for styling, when you look at the body, here we have H1, we have UL, we can try to style all those ones. So how can we do that? We can start with the entire body. So you could do body, then in the body, you could do font family. There are several types of font family that you can use, but you can use this area. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because my initial feeling is that at least you guys have done something with what? With HTMLs and CSS. So we can do some bit of margin to 0, then padding 0, text align, enter. Let me just do it faster. For H1, H1, H1 basically, our heading 1, we could basically look at font background color. There are several colors. Always, I prefer you use the color code like this. Don't use the RGB, just use these color codes. You can put any color. You can try to put any color. I'm just using the color that I think I'm familiar with it from the websites I've been creating. Then you can do the color white, and then you can do a padding. Can do a padding of 10. I think you understand when you put this. This take care of the top and bottom. And now you can do the UL and then the forms up, down. So let's do the unordered list. The unordered list, basically, you are interested in the background color. Just try to use some of the colors that I'm familiar with it. Then margin, like 10 px. Then padding. can use 10px. Then border don't write border like that. Border 1px solid. Then you can also format the forms. So that you can have the display. You could have it inline block. And the block then you can add the text align, which is going to be left. Then we could go to the level, the input. Yeah. So let's try to do some bit of labels. So the labels can be basically the display, which is block, and margin, can use 10px, 0 and 5px. Then you can look at the input. The width of the input should be 100. Then the padding could do 10 or 8. The margin you can put 5 here, 0. Then the box sizing. Put a border box, should work. Then you can deal with the button. And then in the button, basically you can focus on the color. That should be okay. Then you can do some bit of over on the box. So you can do button over. Then you can do a background color. Then the anchor, the links. We basically focus on display. Display can be inline but box. Block. And the margin block be 20px. So let's run this and see. Okay. I think this should be a little bit better. Now, my only problem is when I add a species, I click on add, the species is supposed to be displayed here. And it's not displaying it here.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, so yes. So
Can we
we could
I think I know why the
yes.
list is not being displayed. Can we go back to the app.py? I mean, in the is it the index? The index.html. Yeah, that for loop. Our list is a species list, not species only. I think that's why it's not accessing the list.
It is species
This is
list.
underscore list.
In species underscore, no, not there. The second one.
You are displaying.
Is. Yeah.
That's the only thing.
That's how I think that's how it's supposed to be.
I'll load and see if oh yeah, I think that yeah, that's right. Okay. So when you go and add a new species and say what is that? What's your name? Are you Victor?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Chat man. Oh, it adds. So anyway, that is it. But thank you a lot for listening up this point. You could continue and build a very beautiful web application using Django from scratch, like the way I'm doing it, without using templates. You can customize it. Have you seen me using any template? Have you seen me using any template? No. So guys,
No.
avoid using templates as a programmer so that at least you can learn. Is that okay? Because if you use template, you won't learn. As a material student, please make sure you, even if your work doesn't look beautiful, you are not, I know some of you may not be very good in, you're good maybe in back-end development, you're not good in front-end, but I'm not saying all of you are going to do this project. If by chance your group is going to do web development, avoid using what? Avoid using templates. Try to do it your own. Template, you will use it when you're in the industry. So I think you can realize that Flask is actually easier. You can use Flask for building web application because it's kind of easier to build applications using Flask. But for as a complete working software, can use even, but it's better you use Django. Personally, I recommend Django, but for the purposes of allow you to have a broader experience, I decided to show you everything. Okay, so that is it with me up to this point. Any question?
Excuse me.
Please make, yes.
Can you show us the code where you link the CSS to the HTML file? I'm having some issues there.
Use the Ginger. When you use this curly brackets, it will take care of the Ginger modules. So that's how you link it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The recordings will be available. I will share with you the recordings. But Airtel has disappointed me. Okay, any question? Ifarata and Musmenta, Sisi. Not today. but on Saturday, let's try to link up online. There's something I want us to continue with the other project. Yeah. Yeah, that's for now, that's the only project I'm interested in doing the mentorship.
Registration link.
You use the other old registration link. Okay, I'll share it. Let me share it in the chat. Let me stop sharing. Wait for the registration link.